What is up, guys? And we are back from our trip to Portland, and today we're going to be working back onto this red WRX that we had showed you guys the importance of a mass airflow sensor. And you guys had noticed in that video I had mentioned the oil pressure was really extremely high on the car, and some of you were commenting on there. And this thing, when it was at a fully warm idle, the moment you would touch the gas, it would go up to 85 psi, and that was at like anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 RPM. So we are concerned that it has an oil pressure problem. Now, if that's the case, then we're gonna have to end up going a little bit further into this thing as far as replacing the oil pump is what the issue is going to end up being. If it was a low oil pressure issue, then you know we could have an issue of an oil pump or bearings in the motor, but that's not the case. So we want to make sure that it's not just a faulty sensor before diving into this thing and going the more expensive route of changing the oil pump out on the car. So one way to do that, picked up this, I believe it's 23 bucks at your local O'Reilly's gauge, and these are really simple to put onto these cars because it's literally just a mechanical gauge, so there is no inaccuracy of this having a bad sensor. So what we need to do is we need to run this to our main oil galley plug, which is going to be on the top front of the engine right by the alternator, and then we'll put this on. We have one line coming off it. We don't have to hook up any power or ground or anything like that, and this thing will tell us exactly what we're seeing there. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Really hoping that it's just a bad sensor in the car for him, so that way he doesn't have to go the route of doing a new oil pump. So to start out the day, we are going to go ahead, get this thing apart and get this thing installed. So I will be showing you guys how to put this on, very straightforward like I was mentioning, and then I'll be showing you guys what our oil pressure is, and I really hope for his sake that it's just a bad sensor. So let's get this thing unlocked, get the hood popped, and let's see what we got to take apart. So first thing first, guys, always unhook your negative because we're going to be taking off the alternator here. This is a power wire, so we don't want that to touch anything and arc out, and that brings a whole bunch of other issues. So first thing, we're going to take the ground off the battery. From there, we are going to get this cover off of here. So we have a 10 millimeter bolt here, 10 millimeter nut there. From that, then we're going to take our alternator off, and then it's literally just right underneath there, and we can see exactly what we need to do. So let me get those things off and we'll get that in. So now we got this alternator sitting over to the side here and out of the way. Our main oil pressure galley is going to be right here, right above the oil pump. So we're going to remove the sensor and we're going to screw in our adapter for our new oil pressure gauge. So most cases what I do is I like to take this out and I'll leave theirs all together and I'll put a test one in here. So we'll see what happens. If I can get this piece out and then get down to that, then I might just use that. But let me go find a socket. I believe this is a 24. We'll get this removed and then we'll get that gauge in there. So I got our gauge all opened up, and what it comes with is you have obviously the gauge, and then you're going to have a roll of some plastic hose here. So this is what actually the oil comes through and feeds up and shows the gauge what's going on, being a mechanical gauge and not like a sensor like most. So we got their fitting screwed into the bottom of the block here. It's an 11 millimeter, and then this upper portion where this hose goes in, this is a 10 millimeter. Just use a wrench to screw that on and tighten that there. And then we're going to put this up on top of the engine up here. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the alternator back on for now, because we are gonna let this thing run for a bit. So we wanna make sure we're still charging the system instead of just letting it run with no alternator. So you guys just saw me take this thing off, so I'm gonna throw this back on. Once I get that back on, it's literally as simple as connecting that up to the gauge, and we're ready to test this oil pressure. So let's throw this back on and get to it. Now I know some of you guys are gonna get these and you're gonna make the comment, well, how do I hook up this plastic line to go into there? So to answer your question, let's see if I can do this one-handed. We have obviously our fitting here, so we got to put that over the end of our hose, and keep in mind I'm doing this one-handed, so we got it like that, so it's on there. Right now you have this extra piece right there, and I really hope this thing focuses on it, but it's like a little cone deal. So what we're going to be doing here is sliding that over the end of our hose, and you want the cone shape going downward. Oh man, don't lose it. Almost dropped it, and then that would be screwed. So then you have something like this. So you can see there are two different pieces. You put that into your gauge now, then now you just screw it on, and that's it, guys. So let me get this thing tight, and then we're going to check this pressure. And we got this thing conveniently placed to where I should be able to see it in the car. Yes, the car is dusty. We're gonna have to spray it on, spray it off for him. Our neighbor has been doing lots of work across the street, so it's left us with being pretty dusty. So I can see the gauge right there, guys. Boom. Obviously it's not the straightest thing in the world, but that will work just fine. So we're gonna go ahead and start this thing up, and then obviously when we start this thing up, we're gonna make sure we don't have any leaks up there, so we're not spraying oil everywhere. That's obviously not something we want to do, but we're gonna have to obviously let this thing warm all the way up, so that way we can see if the oil pressure is doing the same thing, and we're gonna be comparing both gauges. And there goes the compressor. So let me start the scene. Let's see what happens. So oil pressure is going up on that gauge. So let's just double check we haven't got any leaks. So coming through, looking good, guys. No leaks. So you can actually see the oil is coming through this hose right now, going into there. So we're at probably what, 90-ish, 92, which that's pretty normal for a cold start. You can see we're reading the exact same on our AEM gauge as the other gauge right now. So I'm gonna let this thing warm up. Once it's all the way warmed up, I will catch you guys back up, because I doubt you want to sit here and wait for this thing to warm up for the next 10-15 minutes. So be right back. So now that we're jumping ahead about 10-15 minutes of letting this thing idle, holding the RPMs up, trying to get some heat in the oil, you can see right now, same thing I was talking about before, our AEM gauge is showing 25, 26 at idle here. Keep in mind our idle is pretty low. We are at around 500 to 600 RPMs. Now if we take a look at our mechanical gauge, I know I'm hitting stuff here, you can see we are at the same exact amount as our AEM gauge, so that's not looking good. So if I go ahead and I bring up the RPMs, we're gonna go up, let's just say to 1,000. So there's like, it's really hard to go up just 1,000. That's 1,200 right there. And guys, look, we're already at almost 50 PSI of oil pressure now. If I bring it up a little more, here's 1,500. We're at 60 to 65 PSI of oil pressure, and then bumping up to 2K. Oh geez, I hit the gas a little much. Let's see if I can get it right a little more. Come on, foot. So there's 2,000 RPMs, and we are at 80 PSI of oil pressure, guys. So if you take a look over here, AEM gauge saying the same thing. RPMs are at 2K. So we have an issue, guys. Looks like it's gonna end up being that oil pump on the engine. They have a relief valve in there. I have seen these things get stuck before, and that is one of the mods I do when we do build new engines. So I'm gonna let him know and see what kind of direction he's gonna want to go. I'm sure he's gonna want to replace the oil pump now. I'm also gonna ask him what weight of oil he's using. I would assume that it has 530 or 1030 in it, and obviously that's just too high of oil pressure. So we're gonna go ahead, reach out to him. Hopefully this will be a long enough video for you guys up until I am able to pull this apart, because I'm going to have to order an oil pump for this thing, and we're probably going to be doing a timing belt as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video of us diagnosing this. I'm going to go ahead and leave it here for now, and I'll see you guys into the next video.
Living life up in the fast lane. Hey. Living life up in the fast lane. And I ain't slowing down, I ain't slowing down, I ain't slowing down. Living life up in the fast lane.